Good morning. Well, this is our alternative asynchronous lesson today because Zoom decided to not work for us. Things like this are going to happen, and because we're relying on technology. And as a good teacher, I always have to have a backup. So, what I'm doing today is I am making a recording of today's lesson. And what we're going to do is we are going to read an article and we are going to make annotations. We're going to mark on the article, and then we're going to do the questions for it. You do have a check-in question in the classroom that should be popping up for you shortly if it hasn't already. This is my sorry. This is going to be my alternative lesson plans if I get sick. I'm going to be setting you up for classes that you can do. If I get sick, I'm going to assign you articles on Newsela, and I'm also going to have you work on your wonderful, wonderful power up. So here we get started. Now, at first, I am going to have these articles set to a certain level, and then they will start to. Then I'll let you guys see what you can challenge yourselves, and if you do well on the quizzes, they'll bring you up a level in the reading ability. So that's kind of cool because it just depends on what you need. So first off, we are going to read this article. We're going to make annotations the second time we read it, okay? So you're going to make annotations on your own. And what you're going to do is any letter, any words that you don't understand, I want you to highlight them in red. And the main idea for the paragraph, I want you to highlight in yellow. It's really simple. We're just having two things to do. Red highlight for the words that you don't understand, and yellow highlight for the main ideas. That's all we're doing right now. Now, if you look right here, this is presenting because this is the way I am presenting it to you through the browser. This is to save, if you want to save the article. This is read aloud. If I'm not here to read it for you, you can have the computer read it for you. And the computer might be a little better at pronunciation sometimes because I kind of screw up. Hide you're not going to need, share you're not going to need, and you don't need to print it. So let's read. Weekly poems elevate New Hampshire City's virus newsletters. This is a picture of the poet laureate. See, I told you I'm not very good at pronouncing some words. She is the main character for our article. This article's all about her. Poet Tammy Truax stands at her home in Eliot, Maine, July 29, 2020. Truax, the poet laureate for Portsmouth, New Hampshire, pens a weekly pandemic poem that is included in the city's COVID-19 newsletter. And this is by the Associated Press, adapted by Newsela staff. And there's 457 words. Okay. Valerie Rochon lives in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Every day, Rochon gets an email. It has an update on the coronavirus pandemic. It comes from the Portsmouth City Manager. It contains public health information. It also features a poem in each issue. The poems are written by Tammy Truax. She has been writing for the newsletter since early April. Truax is the city's poet laureate. A poet laureate is appointed by the government. Sometimes they compose poems for special events and occasions. Poet welcomed writing weekly works. Truax became Portsmouth Poet Laureate last year. She believes poetry can help people through hard times. Because of that, she gladly agreed to write poems for the newsletter. She writes a new one every week. Some are inspired by the news, others are based on what is going on in her own life. Here's one short poem. Some nights are so dark that the moon alone is sure morning will come. That poem is called a haiku. One poem describes the toppling of statues. This has been occurring during recent protests over racial injustice in the country. The poem was the Black Lives Matter movement. That movement is led by people who believe Black people are treated unfairly in the United States. Truax wrote another poem to mark the birthday of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter. Kahlo has had serious health problems. She had to stay in bed for months. Truax asked what Kahlo would make of the pandemic. Today, some people are taking risks. They are not wearing masks. What would Kahlo think of those who won't give up what we want, think we need? Poems reflect what we're all living through. Stephanie Secor puts the newsletter together. She came up with the idea of asking Truax to add poems. I thought maybe we could offer a moment of calm in the sea of craziness, Secor said. But now the poems are more than that, she says. They are part of the record of what we're all living through. Rishon was very touched by Truax's latest poem, Transitions. In it, Truax writes about a fellow poet's death. Truax describes hiding her tears behind her face mask. She comforts herself by baking zucchini bread. Then she gives the bread to the young man who fixed her car. We all do that, Rishon said. We all do something to get past the sadness. She also said, some of us bake, some of us work in a garden, others go on long bike rides. It puts you in touch with something that's real. And this image, the poet's reading glasses rest on a printout of one of the poems at her home in Elliott, Maine. Okay, so let's go back here. We've read our article. Now we are going to underline or highlight, our main ideas. So Valerie Rishon lives in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Every Monday, Rishon gets an email. It has an update on the coronavirus pandemic. It comes from Portsmouth's city manager. It contains public health information. It also features a poem in each issue. So what do you think is going to be the main idea? Well, I got this hint, weekly poems. So I think that the main idea is it features a poem in each issue. So this is going to be our first main idea. The poems are written by Tammy Truax. She has been writing for the newsletter since early April. Truax is the city's poet laureate. A poet laureate is appointed by the government. Sometimes they compose poems for special events and occasions. So what do you think is the main idea of this paragraph? It's about Tammy Truax, right? So actually we have the main idea is right here at the beginning of the sentence. We're going to make it yellow. Sometimes the main idea is at the beginning of the sentence, and sometimes it's at the beginning of the paragraph, and sometimes it's at the end. When it's really tricky, it's in the middle, and that's very frustrating. Truax became Portsmouth Poet Laureate last year. She believes that poetry can help people through hard times. Because of that, she gladly agreed to write the poems for the newsletters. She writes a new one every week. Some are inspired by the news, others are based on what is going on in her own life. I think the main idea is actually here in the middle, which is very confusing. So we've got, because of that, she gladly agreed to write the poems for the newsletter. Here's one short poem. Some nights are so dark that the moon alone is sure morning will come. That poem is called a haiku. So that's the main idea. One poem describes the toppling of statues. This has been occurring during the recent protests over racial injustice in the country. The poem was inspired by the Black Lives Matters movement. This movement is led by people who believe Black people are treated unfairly in the United States. So this is one poem. That's what they're talking about. This whole, whoops, I didn't want all that. One poem. See, sometimes, ooh, ooh. One poem describes the toppling statues. Truax wrote another poem to mark the birthday of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter. Kahlo had serious health problems. She had to stay in bed for months. Truax asked what Kahlo would make of the pandemic. Today, some people are taking risks. They are not wearing masks. What would Kahlo think of those who won't give up what we want, we think we need? I think this is the birthday, to celebrate the birthday. The poems reflect what we are all living through. Stephanie Secord puts the letter together. She came up with the idea of asking her to add poems. I think she put the newsletter together. Whoops. I thought maybe we can offer a moment of calm in the sea of craziness, Secord said. But now the poems are just more than that. They are part of the record of what we are all living through. I think this is the main idea. Rishon was very touched by Truax's latest poem, Transitions. In it, Truax writes about a fellow poet's death. Truax describes hiding her tears behind her face mask. She comforts herself by baking zucchini bread. Then she gives the bread to the young man who fixed her car. I think this is why we're having the article, even. Oh, wait. I didn't get the whole thing because we need to go all the way to the period. There we go. We all do that, Rushon said. We all do something to get past the sadness, she said. She also said. Some of us bake, some of us work in a garden, others go on long bike rides. It puts you in touch with something that's real. And I think this is one where it's in the middle. We all do something to get past the sadness. Okay, so we have highlighted all that we need. We have highlighted our main ideas. And next, we go over here to activities. And we have a little writing section, and write a short paragraph that explains the central idea of the article. Use at least 2 details from the article to support your response. So what do you think the whole article is about? Well, just to let you know, because we highlighted the main idea of the each paragraph, you're going to have the details that you need. So you can write, you get to choose what you think this whole article is about. Maybe put all your different pieces together and it'll give you the answer. Maybe. And then you get to do the quiz, and I read the section. Which sentence from this section states the main idea? Oh, look. Okay, you're going to answer the questions and click on them. And then it'll tell you the answer. And I have the answer key is hidden. Earlier, it was showing the answers. There's only 4 short questions. You just click on the one. So let's see. Let's do the first one together. Read the section, Poet poet welcomed writing weekly works. I still think that's a tongue twister. Like if they had said, writer welcomed writing weekly works, that would definitely be a tongue twister. Which sentence from the section states the main idea about Tammy Truex's newsletter poetry? A, Truex became Portsmouth's poet laureate last year. B, she believes poetry can help people through hard times. C, this has been occurring during the recent protests. Or D, Truex wrote another poem to mark the birthday. I think what main idea about her newsletter is she believes poetry can help people through hard times. That's my choice, B. You're going to do the rest on your own, okay? And then you will turn it into the Google Classroom. And I'm going to save this now, and we're going to move on to another assignment. Okay?